Hello and welcome to the weekly Pre-Shabbat AGJC Zoom call. Each week we gather together, the Jewish communities of all 6 GCC countries and our families and friends from around the world, to hear an inspirational message before Shabbat, light candles, hear Dvar Torah, pray, and read a section from the weekly Torah portion. Today we will hear from Eric Rubin, Global Ambassador of the Maccabi World Union, who is a very good friend of many of us, and he will speak about the responsibility of sports off the field. The Association of Gulf Jewish Communities is the umbrella organization for the Jewish communities of GCC countries that are building and enhancing Jewish life in the region. While each community is independent, we share a common goal and vision for Jewish life to flourish in the Gulf for the benefit of both residents and visitors. To stay updated on AGJC events, please follow us on Twitter at @GulfJewish and visit our website www.gulfjewish.org. Shabbat Shalom, and continuing to pray for peace to prevail around the world.
Thank you so much, Shuda. And now we'll head to Sue, who's going to light the candles this week.
Mariel. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'avidim shel shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much. And now we'll head to Alex, who's going to lead us in Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor lecha b'dibor echad, ishmiyanu el hamiuchat. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'letila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech יכמלוך, קומיצאי מתוך אפיך, רב לך שם בימי קבך, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Yamim u'smol tifrotzi, et Adonai taritzi, al yadi shbem parzi, v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Ohi b'shalom ateret ba'ala, gam b'shalom ובצהלה, תוך סגולה, בואי חלה, לך לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Thank you so much, Alex. And now we're going to head to Jerome, who's going to introduce today's speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those in the U.S. I have the pleasure of introducing a dear friend of mine, met over 25 years ago, worked with him over my 9-year MBA career with MBPA. We had mutual interests in financial literacy and actually lost touch for a little bit, but reconnected over this past summer. Eric informed me about his Project X, and I wanted to know why I wasn't involved, because the mission of combating anti-Semitism and racism and intolerance in sports is really important to me. And so I was talking to Eric, and I told him a little bit about my charitable program, Shooting for Peace, and how we have a similar message and mission, delivering history, mental wellness, and financial literacy to youth all over the world. And our programs love bringing people together, promoting peaceful activities. And I toured actually military bases this summer in Bahrain, the UAE, Kuwait, as well as Cuba. And Eric asked me about doing engagements together on promoting the Abraham Accord, the UAE and Bahrain, and others like Saudi Arabia. I just wanted to do sports diplomacy alongside my good friend Eric, and to use it as a tool to reach out to the community and really bring together and galvanize the Dog Pound, known as a JYD. I look forward to seeing many of you in the Gulf region in the near future, and I'm going to turn this over to my good friend Eric. Dog Pound.
Thanks, Jerome. You always know how to make cheer us up, so thanks so much. Ariella, could I share screen, please?
Yeah, you're all set.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Jerome. And it was great. Jerome and I were on a business call together, and I mentioned Project Max. And literally, I didn't even get off the Zoom, and my phone was ringing, and he wanted to join us. And I have told him a lot about the work we were doing. And given the fact that he's been to the Gulf and we share some similar missions, I thought he was the best one to introduce me. And he is sincere. We look forward to this war being over and us being able to come to Israel and the Gulf again and share the message of shooting for peace and Project Max. This week, you guys probably saw I have a new title. It's a tremendous honor for me. I was named the only second global ambassador in the 125-year history of the Maccabi World Union, and will be teaming up with Ido Aharoni to speak all over the world about the need to combat anti-Semitism and racism and intolerance in sports in particular. I know that many of you are familiar with the Maccabi Games, but also, the Maccabi World Union is kind of the parent organization for us. What many of you may not know, but the Maccabi World Union is actually the oldest continuously active Zionist organization. And I'm not going to read this entire screen, but I think at the bottom, one of the things that is really important in our mission is being focused on creating sound Jewish minds in healthy Jewish bodies, and through sports and informal education that we promote our Jewish peoplehood and unity. Sorry, having a... You guys still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why the presentation's not going. Okay, so we're a sporting organization, but much like the rest of the world, on October 7th, we made a dramatic pivot. We had to turn from a sporting organization to a humanitarian organization. Within hours after the brutal attack on October 7th, we sprung into action. And for those of you that may not know, at Kfar Maccabea, which is where our village is, and our headquarters, we have 2 hotels. immediately we began to take in residents of the South who were literally fleeing without food, without suitcases, without money. And we have been housing almost 1,000 residents of the South. Our 2 hotels are at 170% capacity. And I remember when I heard that statistic, I had to ask them, well, how could you be at 170% capacity? And literally they were bringing in bunk beds and cots and everything they possibly could to make sure that the residents of the South, predominantly Sderot, had a place to live. We've turned the dining rooms of the hotels into cafeterias. We're serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And on October 8th, we started bringing in doctors and psychiatrists and counselors to deal with the trauma that the people in the South had experienced. We have set up schools and preschools and kids clubs. You can see here some samples of that, because the residents have now been with us for over 2 months. And many of the parents need to work. They're either driving to locations in Tel Aviv or Ashkelon or other places like that. And they need some place to leave their children. So we have the schools, we have kids clubs. And what you could see is a picture of a donation center. Because remember, this was not like, oh, we're going on a vacation and that we've packed our suitcases. They fled for their lives. And so you can come to our donation center and pick up clothes, underwear, pajamas, coloring books, shoes, anything that you might need. And I think one of the other important things to do, and for everyone to understand, is as a nonprofit, we did this all for free. The government didn't pay us. We haven't asked for a dime for the residents of the South. And we've given them a place to try to go on living their lives and at least feel safe. So that's one of the ways that as a sporting organization, we had to evolve off the field to deal with the trauma and the terrible things that happened. One of the other things that we did is this campaign called Sport Speaks Up. And I intentionally put on the top left a picture of Jerome, because he was one of the first ones to speak up. And with the hostage situation, we wanted to make sure that the hostages were not forgotten and that somebody was lending their voice to them. And so, as you guys know, athletes have an important platform. And here's just some examples of not only former NBA players. In the middle, we have 2 former NFL players. We have a baseball player, and then you can see our friend Tamir. But we've had athletes from across the globe who have participated in this. And look, there's been a lot of highs, and there's been a lot of unfortunately, too many lows. It's really exciting for me to be able to call an athlete like Jerome when I got to and say, Jerome, I just want to let you know that Yuli's been released and she's home. And I won't read you the text and the messages I got from Jerome, but you could tell from his heart how happy he was to hear that. Unfortunately, sometimes I need to call our athletes and tell them that they haven't made it home and they won't be coming home. All right, sorry, I don't know why. I mean, and try this reshare. All right, sorry, but I don't know why it's acting up. But we've done several other activities. Here is a video we've done. So we transitioned from the still photo you saw, and I'd like to play this video, please. Okay, I don't know why it's not playing. I apologize. But basically, it's a video of one of the NBA players. Here we go.
Ariel, a 4-year-old child full of life, full of joy, was kidnapped October 7th. Ariel can't speak now. We athletes of the world must speak for Ariel. We must speak for him now.
And obviously, there's a lot more going on in the world, just what's happening here in Israel and the hostage situation. On the right, you can see another former NBA player, another good friend of mine, Eddie Curry, who has seen the anti-Semitism that's been rising around the world, and especially in the United States. And he has agreed to join me the weekend before the Super Bowl at Gillette Stadium, where the New England Patriots play, to address a group of teenagers about what they can do to combat anti-Semitism, on what we're doing to combat anti-Semitism in sports, and in particularly that really uncomfortable place of social media. One of the other things that the Maccabi World Union has done, and this has been in partnership with the Chicago Federation, is we've set up what we call glamping tents. They were also donated by an Israeli company, where we are treating victims of PTSD, especially from the Nova Party. So they get to come for, again, a free 3-day stay, where they get to do yoga, they undergo counseling, and we just give them a place to try to, heal and feel better about everything they're doing. So this has been another initiative that only started about 10 days ago. And then also, we at the Maccabi World Union are now running solidarity and volunteer missions here in Israel. We had our first one last week. And you can see a picture of me with Zvika Moore, whose son is being held hostage. We were able to have a barbecue for an Air Force base where the Black Hawk helicopters are taking off and landing from nonstop all day. In the middle on the bottom, you will see something we went to Kfar Aza, where we got to walk around and see firsthand the brutality of what happened to our border communities. And then on the bottom right, you'll see what I call the secret weapon of the IDF and our people. We were actually on the military base that stores all of the Torah scrolls that make it out to the field for all of the soldiers. And so that was a really uplifting day. Coming back to, our main mission in sports is our Maccabiah Games. For those of you that don't know, the Maccabiah Games are the second largest sporting event worldwide. And we are only about 350 participants smaller than the last Olympics. And so one of the other goals that Ido and I have is to make the 2025 Games the largest sporting event in the world. We're looking at adding new sports, maybe things like extreme sports that might attract a younger crowd. And then also the Maccabiah Games are the largest Jewish Zionist event. We have at Maccabiah, we have about 450,000 members from 60 countries, 400 clubs. And I think important for you to see here is we actually have a club in the Emirates, and we are hoping that in 2025, we will have more participants from the Emirates than we did in the last Games. Would love to see some of our community from Bahrain and other places throughout the Gulf join us for the next Games to help us make history. And because I like to kind of leave on a positive note, this is a picture some of you might have seen before. It's my friends Eddie Johnson and Mark West, who this past summer were here in Israel. And what I want to point out to everyone here is the young woman on the right. She is a Palestinian friend of mine who plays professional basketball in Israel. Unfortunately, she can't play this year because she is in Bethlehem and can't get out during the war. But God willing, next year both her and Tamir have agreed to come to the NBA All-Star game together, participate in Jerome's Shooting for Peace event, so that we could really show the world that our younger generation wants to live together, wants to play sports together, want to make this world a better place. We've been very fortunate that Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, has invited both Tamir and Myrna as his guests next year to show the world that it is possible for Palestinians and Israelis to live together, to play sports together, and hopefully we will be able to make that happen. And let me just close with, we look forward and put the dates on your calendar. We'd love to see you here, July 8th to 22nd of 2025. I think more than ever now, need to be together. We need to be unified as a people. I think that sport is a great mechanism to do that. And I look forward to being in the Gulf soon to talk about all we're doing. Many of you should expect to hear from me. We want to accomplish this mission together. We'll be trying to reach out to nonprofit organizations all around the world to partner with us to really enhance sports diplomacy, not just through the Maccabi World Union, but through organizations like Project Max and organizations like Jerome, Shooting for Peace. And as Jerome said, and as I said earlier, we're looking forward to seeing you all in the Gulf as soon as possible. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you to Jerome for introducing Eric. Eric, every time you come on, you inspire us with the projects that you're doing. So we can't wait to follow your journey with this and to see where it leads you. And I will turn over to James, who's going to share some words of Divrei Torah with us.
Thank you also, Eric. Thank you so much for your inspiring words just now. Actually, my sons play for Maccabi football team in Gibraltar, so where I live. So I just want to thank you and your organization for all the amazing work that you've been doing, and especially over the past 2 weeks. Thank you also, Jerome, for your support. It really means a lot to all of us. I just want to thank Ariella actually for inviting me to say a few words, and Huda and Alex, of course, as well. So in this week's Torah portion, we experienced the long-awaited reunion of Joseph and Benjamin, Yosef and Binyamin. And the pasuk says they wept on each other's shoulders when they met. So the famous commentator Rashi explains why did they weep, and says they were not just crying out of joy, out of having not seen each other for such a long time, but were actually weeping for the future tragedies that would occur in each other's territories in the land of Israel. Joseph cried over the 2 temples that would eventually be built in the portion of Benjamin, and then would later be destroyed in great tragedy, while Benjamin cried over the tabernacle, the Mishkan, in Shiloh, in Joseph's portion that would later be destroyed as well. The Talmud explains that actually the brothers were not just crying about the physical tragedies that would occur, but actually the spiritual decline that would ultimately lead to these tragedies. However, as we see, Rashi explains, they each cried for the other one's tragedy. And so the question I have is simple. Why did each cry for the other's loss instead of their own loss? Why did they cry for the other's spiritual decline and not for their own? And so I'd like to suggest the following answer, that when it comes to our own personal circumstances, crying really isn't the answer to anything. If we want to experience change, if we want to affect improvements in something, we must take responsibility for our own situation. And if we want to improve our spiritual relationship to God, and we fear a spiritual decline, then we must go out and take action ourselves. That responsibility is on us. However, when it comes to our friends and family, while they have their own responsibility to act, we must show our empathy and support and understanding in their time of need and suffering. And so the brothers, Joseph and Benjamin, didn't cry over their own circumstances and the spiritual decline of their own descendants, because they knew that crying wouldn't solve anything. They needed to take action. However, at the same time, they wanted to be there for each other and to show empathy, understanding, and support for their brother's suffering. I think with the situation going on today, I think we're all in a very similar situation where we, as well as our brothers and sisters and our family around the world, are suffering. And therefore, the truth remains the same. We must be there for our families in Israel and around the world who are suffering. We must cry and we must pray for the hostages to be returned. And at the same time, we must evaluate our own personal spiritual connection to God and take action on our own. I'd just like to end by wishing all of you a Shabbat Shalom, and may we experience peace and redemption very soon. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, and it's really hopeful to go into Shabbat, that inspiring message. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you soon in person. But until then, please, continue to join us on the Zoom. And now I'll hand it back to Alex, who's going to read from this week's parsha.
So I want to thank Eric. I think for all the people that think that the Zionist project is something from the past has to listen to Eric. Just arrived in Israel, full of energy. I'm really impressed, and I would say Chazak, continue like that, and thanks God there are people like you. ויבוא יוסף, ויגד לפרעה, ויאמר, אבי ואחי וצאנם ובקורם וכל אשר להם באו מארץ כנען, והינם בארץ גושן, ומקצה אחיו לקח 5 אנשים ויציגם לפני פרעה, ויאמר פרעה אל אחיו מה מעשיכם, ויאמרו אל פרעה, רואה צאן עבדיך גם אנחנו גם אבותינו, ויאמרו אל פרעה לגור בארץ באנו כי אין מרעה, לצאן אשר לעבדיך כי כבד הרב בארץ כנען, ועתה ישונו עבדיך בארץ גושן. ויאמר פרעה אל יוסף לאמור, אביך ואחיך באו אליך, ארץ מצרים לפניך היא, במיטב הארץ יושב את אביך ואת אחיך, ישבו בארץ גושן, ואם ידעת ויש בה אנשי חיל ושמת המסרים מקנה אשר על לי. ויבא יוסף את יעקב אביו ויעמידהו לפני פרעה, ויברך יעקב את פרעה. ויאמר פרעה אל יעקב, כמה ימי שני חייך? ויאמר יעקב אל פרעה, ימי שני מגורי 30 ומעט שנה, מעט ורעים היו ימי שני חיי, ולא השיגו את ימי שני חיי אבותיי בימי מגוריהם. ויברך יעקב את פרעה, ויצא מלפני פרעה.
Thanks so much, Alex. And now we'll head back to Eric, who's going to read the English translation.
Then Joseph came and reported to Pharaoh, saying, my father and my brothers, with their flocks and herds and all that is theirs, have come from the land of Canaan and are now in the region of Goshen. And carefully selecting a few of his brothers, he presented to them Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to his brothers, what is your occupation? They answered Pharaoh, we your servants are shepherds, as were also our fathers. We have come, they told Pharaoh, to sojourn in this land, for there is no pasture for your servants' flocks, the famine being severe in the land of Canaan. Pray then, let your servants stay in the region of Goshen. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, as regards your father and your brothers who have come to you, the land of Egypt is open before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best part of the land. Let them stay in the region of Goshen. And if you know some men of ability among them, put them in charge of my livestock. Joseph then brought his father Jacob and presented him to Pharaoh, and Jacob greeted Pharaoh. Pharaoh asked Jacob, how many are the years of your life? And Jacob answered Pharaoh, the years of my sojourn on earth are 130. Few and hard have been the years of my life, nor did they come up to the lifespans of my ancestors during their sojourns. Then Jacob bade Pharaoh farewell and left Pharaoh's presence. Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks so much. And now we're going to go back to James, who's going to be the chief rabbi of the UK's prayer.
אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל בגואלו, באנו לפניך בתפילה ותחנונים, תמהים ושבורי לב על מכות האכזריות אשר הכתה ארצנו הקדושה ועמך ישראל, ביום אשר הפכה חגינו לעבר. אנו מתאבלים על אבדן מאות אנשים נשים וטף, אשר נצפו בזדון, ומתפללים על נפשותם. אבינו מלכנו, שלח רפואה שלמה לאלפי פצועי עמך. אבינו מלכנו, רחם על אחינו השבויים, והוציאם מאפלה וצל מוות לגאולה, מסורותיהם תפתח וממצוקותיהם הצילם, והשיבם מהרה לחיק משפחותיהם. אבינו מלכנו, הגן על משפחות ישראל מאימת מוות, חזק חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, אשר שמים נפשם בכפם, והצביעם לקראת אויבינו. אבינו מלכנו אשר בידך לב מלכים ושרים, תקן בעצה טובה מלפניך את שרי ישראל לנצח במלחמתם, כדי שיהיו תושביה שלמים מעין מחריד. אבינו מלכנו, פרוש סוכת שלומך, פרוש סוכת שלומך על יושבי בארצך, ככתוב, ונתתי שלום בארץ, ושכבתם באין מחריד, והשבעתי חיה רעה מן הארץ, וחרב לא תעבור בארצכם. ואחינו אבינו בביטחון ושלווה, ושים שלום אמיתי וקיים על מדינת ישראל, על כל יושבי תבל ארצך. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to head to Sue, who's going to read the prayer for the GCC.
May he who gives salvation to kings and dominion to princes, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, who delivers his servant David from the evil sword, who makes a way in the sea and a path through the mighty waters, bless and protect, guard and help, exalt, magnify, and uplift. His Majesty, the King of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, the King of Bahrain, His Majesty, the Sultan of Oman, His Highness, the President of the UAE, His Highness, the Emir of Kuwait, His Highness, the Emir of Qatar, and all their crown princes. And may the Supreme King of Kings, in his mercy, put a spirit of wisdom and understanding into their hearts and the hearts of all their counselors and officials to deal kindly with us, the house of Jacob, and all the people of this land. Be their shelter and stronghold, and let them not falter. In their days and in ours, may these lands be blessed with stability, prosperity, and peace. May this be his will, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you so much. Now, before I turn it to Alex, this is usually the part where I say, please join us next week, same time, same Zoom link, you know the spiel. We're going to take off next Friday in honor of Erev New Year's, but we do ask that everybody come back and join us on January 5th. We already have, we're already working on a great lineup of speakers for January. It's kind of crazy to say we're already hitting 2024. But everybody, for those in the States, you could sleep in next Friday. But we do hope you'll join us again in January. So without further ado, I'll turn it back to Alex for Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Yasharet, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Amelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachi Yashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Malachi Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni leshalom, Malachi Yashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech Malachi Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leshalom, Malachi Yashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech Malachi Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. See you All-Star Weekend,
Shabbat Shalom.
Jerome.
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Everyone.